if not in Britain, all £8 billion worth. There was asbestos to be removed, lead from what remained of the roof, and walls that threatened to collapse at any moment.
The real biggest challenge is the construction. I mean, it's an enormously complicated building to work on. There's something like 2,500 people on site. And the logistics of the construction is mind-bogglingly challenging.
This is the largest single brick structure in Europe, 6,000 bricks. We've had to fire and make another 1.7 million bricks in Imperial size. We've got 2,400 operatives on the site. There's 24,000 tonnes of steel. That's twice as many as the Shard. We can fit St Paul's Cathedral within the boiler house. It's immense. There are 17 tower cranes. There are 48 hoists. There's an immense statistics. It's 4 million square feet. There's retail, it's a shopping mall, there's residential, there's commercial office. It's got every product type. It's a wonderful building.
The list goes on. In comes a 62-ton beam, an operation that's been months in the planning. It'll be positioned at the southern end of the turbine hall and allow the spaces Jim Eyre has designed to be uncluttered by columns.
The key driver for this beam was that we installed it in one go. Driving a 27-metre long beam through to London is exceptionally complex. Driving it through the site itself is equally complex.
This huge beam requires an equally huge crane to lift it, one of the largest in Europe.
It has to land on only 300 mil of concrete, so we've had to come up with a rocker plate detail.
This is a wonderful feeling, not just for me and the whole of the Battersea team, but for all the trades and designers involved in it. This is a major stepping stone in the journey of bringing the power station back to life. The planning involved in the erection of Tower Crane 15 has been meticulous. Just on the pure lifting alone, we have over 200 operatives working on a lifting plan, a lifting strategy, making sure it's carried out to absolute precision.
We have been absolutely flat out over the last few weeks, getting all the temporary works in place to install one of the biggest cranes in Europe.
We have 16 tower cranes, which is the most tower cranes on any construction site in the UK at present. A lot of tower crane drivers on site. We've got 44 at present, day and night working 24 hours.
The tree columns will be used to create an extraordinary feel to the power station. Within the boiler house, they'll enable a grid-free column structure which gives a light and airy feel. It'll be truly finish a unique part of the event centre.
This whole crane operation has been an absolute credit to the entire team down here, who've made sure that all of the temporary works is in place. Really importantly, other works can carry on safely around the boiler house.
All this demands precision. One of the greatest fears of architects is that the components they draw are not made to the exact specification or are not fitted properly when they arrive. A good reason for having those 30 architects on site. And an added complication at Battersea, new beams are being slotted in among the old.
As soon as you start working on site, you also start to demolish some component, and so to test some of the component structural integrity of component, you have to take on some tile, to take on some bricks. So therefore, you discover other elements. So the building fabric itself has evolved during that period. So you have to adapt your design. So the first component is think about robust sample design element. That's the first thing. The second element is making sure that you have an adaptable design. So I think be prepared and aware that actually when you deal with a structure like that and a building like that, you will have some element that you will have to evolve and change. And I think the client has been very good to understand that, and to understand that the best approach is to be flexible, and also with the contractor, because suddenly when you realize that the wall is much weaker than what you thought it was going to be, well, then you know that that might have an impact on the logistics, that might have an impact on the program. So therefore, if you don't want to pick up a delay out of that, you might have to change something or to simplify something against it.
The job of our team on site is to stay on top of everything. Well, first of all, it's everything that comes back from contractors and all the various suppliers, the various proposals, because there will be, 100,000 drawings produced by suppliers and contractors that we have to check against our work and keep steering them towards, what we designed. Because in a way, what we've designed is what's been bought. So that's what we want to see happen.
It's an adventure, it's a human adventure, dealing with a project like that. I mean, first of all, I've been involved on it, on the project since the first drawing line, since the first sketches that we did, which was back in 2013, so it's already more than 3 years, close to 4 years now, and we are going to get involved for another 2 or 3 years. So you have to actually keep sane and keep motivated and keep positive about it, because you have a lot of challenges, and it's by moment very tense, because from one hand, you have the client who just realized that sometimes there's some discovery and something he didn't know or nobody knew about the building, and that's a discovery which is going to have consequences. And also, the things evolve. So, we have trade contractor which haven't performed or are not there anymore. When you have a long-term project like that, you do have to be on it for the long run. So, yes, you have to keep all the components in your head, and it's a challenge. And also, you have to rely on the fact that it's a team thing. If you haven't got a fantastic team around you, if you haven't got amazing people around you, a project like that can't happen.
"23 floors above the ground, there's a good view of how the area around Battersea Power Station is being regenerated. The new American embassy is complete. At the power station itself, there are 4 more phases to come, involving architects such as Norman Foster and Frank Gehry. And of course, Phase 1, Circus West by Ian Simpson, is complete and occupied. There have been criticisms. Not enough affordable housing in the scheme, a concern of the London Mayor. Too many of the high-end flats being sold overseas. The apartment blocks are too close to the power station, affecting its monumentality. But Historic England recognised that a balance had to be struck between letting the old building fall down and allowing development next door in order to fund its restoration.
We've made no secret of the fact this is a very expensive building, and the only way you could do what we're doing here, which is bringing it back to life for all of London, forever, so to speak, has been that we have had another 36 acres of land around it, which we could build sympathetic buildings, those that help fund this building on its own. Standalone, on its own, it would have been beyond challenging, but as part of a bigger master plan, a bigger mixed-use town centre for London, then it becomes feasible and plausible.
The big test is when the public are allowed in, and you will come out either on the riverfront or on the south front. You'll see this gargantuan building towering above you, and I think that will be a great thrill. And then you'll go inside and see how, the great central hall, which was just a tangle of pipes, which was the boiler house, is now, full of activity and life with the turbine halls restored. I think it's going to be a great moment. It's one of the largest ever attempted pieces of urban regeneration in a single building.
Those behind the regeneration of Battersea Power Station argue that you will still view this iconic structure from the Thames and from the embankment on the opposite side of the river. Where once coal was delivered to fire this monster, more than 1 million tonnes every year, will be gardens and reflecting pools, and people. In a few years, Nine Elms will have been transformed from a wasteland to an area occupied by thousands of workers and residents. They've even extended the Northern Line and created a new stop. But what would it look like? With a year to go, it's still difficult to read the interior of the power station to imagine how it will look, but slowly the exterior is emerging. Jim Eyre's tall, thin windows inspired by Scott, the new apartments poking above the roofline, all designed to transform this London landmark.
Ultimately, it's that thing when you see the thing taking shape on site and you start to, even in the skeletal form of just structure, you start to think, yes, we drew that, and here it is, and it's beginning to look like that, and isn't it an amazing scale or extraordinary space? To finally, the thing is finished. And the real pleasure, I think, is when people go in, you see the public go in, particularly for a building that's publicly accessible, and the sort of the oohs and ahs, as it were, when people like what you've done. I mean, that is fantastic. It's a great feeling. We really like the idea in architecture, particularly in our buildings and spaces we create, that they're spiritually uplifting. It's kind of fundamental. You want people to feel better when they go into one of your buildings or when they see one.
At the end, it will have taken 8 years to restore Battersea Power Station and the surrounding area. Sir Giles Gilbert Scott went on to become President of the Royal Institute of British Architects. He designed the chamber of the House of Commons, destroyed during the Blitz, and Bankside Power Station, now Tate Modern, before his death in 1960. And Battersea, like his red telephone box, has become an enduring symbol of industrial design. Next time, in the 6 months after the new V&A Museum in Dundee opened, 500,000 people walked through its doors. Those behind this project, the first V&A to be built outside London, were overwhelmed but not surprised. They'd felt all along that a signature building by the Japanese architect Kengo Kuma on Dundee's waterfront could trigger the regeneration of this city, spoiled by insensitive development in the 1960s. In Dundee's brave new world, people would come here to learn more about Scotland's design heritage in a structure that is itself a piece of design, a piece of art, with its own story.
So what I want to do is work with the community to respect the place and to learn something from the place. It's just a kind of conversation with the community, conversation with the place.